and that the government would stop growing. Well, what Congress did was begin to borrow. So that idea, has fallen by the wayside. You keep taxes low, you keep the economy healthy and growing. What we do with growth in debt, that goes back to individual representatives and the people that you and I send up there. Also, Eric Cantor is not here tonight, but Eric Cantor makes hundreds of personal appearances every year in the district. Eric Cantor has thousands of votes on record that you could go and see. Every quarter, Eric Cantor has an advisory meeting. There's one coming up October 14th. You're all welcome to come. They ask that you do RSVP so they know how much food to get. There'll be 600-700 people at those meetings. If you get there early, Eric will meet and talk to the first 100-200 people. I've been going to that for years. So again, he's very accessible.
When was the last time home? Next one.
Okay. Rick would oppose a repeal of the Affordable Care Act, the health care reform this year. He does not think that the Affordable Care Act was perfect. He thinks that it needs to do more than it does, and that there may be things in it that are problematic that need to be fixed. But he does not think that it should be scrapped and thrown away. You have the United States has the worst infant mortality and life expectancy statistics of any major developed nation. And yet we spend $8,500 a year per capita on healthcare. Japan spends $2,500 a year per capita on healthcare and is #1 in those two categories of life expectancy and infant mortality rates. If it's not clear to you that there's something broken in the healthcare system, that you're paying too much, that you're paying a lot for service that you're not getting, and that some sort of reform is necessary, then you're not looking at the numbers closely enough. The country that spends the second most per capita on healthcare is Switzerland. They spend about $4,000 a year per capita on Switzerland. The United States spends more than $8,000 a year.
They have private insurance, which is very expensive. Please allow him to continue.
Those per capita numbers include private insurance and public insurance. I'm not supporting single-payer health care, and Rick doesn't either.
It's not in there. Okay? It's not the federal government's responsibility to take care of my health care.
That's right.
And I gotta say, it's a shame Mr. Van Paul isn't running for Congress. Apparently he's able to answer questions Mr. Cantor can't. If any of you have seen the video clip where Laura Ingraham was asking Mr. Cantor that very same question, he spent about 5 minutes not answering it. So the point is, the federal government should not be involved in taking care of us. Again, it gets back to the same things with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. It's not the federal government's responsibility. Now, what would I do? I'm advocating for the American Health Care Plan. If you go to my website, you will find under my issues platforms, under healthcare, I have been advised by Dr. John Lanzalotti, who lives in Williamsburg. The man's a surgeon. He's been a doctor for over 30 years. And he spent 20 of those 30 years formulating the American Health Care Plan, which gets the government out of the mix, puts the patient-doctor relationship back as the focal point of your health care program, and it cuts out the third payer. You get rid of the insurance company as the third payer. I would invite you to go to my website, read it. If you have any questions, you can email me or Dr. Lanzalotti, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. But we need to get back to the private sector competition. Let the doctors and the patients determine their health care and not some government bureaucrat.
The next question is somewhat related, but it's got a little twist to it. How do you feel about the Attorney General's lawsuit regarding health care and the conflict with the 10th Amendment for states' rights? And we'll start with you, sir.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see how that lawsuit plays out. I can't speak for Rick on his opinions on that. I mean, obviously it's a matter the courts are going to resolve, and it's not going to be a matter that the legislature is going to have to deal with. If the courts rule in favor of Ken Cuccinelli, then it's not going to be an issue, and the healthcare reform won't be enacted. If it is enacted, then it's going to be a matter of whether it's politically feasible for the Republicans in Congress and conservatives in Congress to repeal health care, or whether it isn't. Rick thinks that the health care reform was a good thing on the whole, more than it was a bad thing. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that lawsuit.
Mr. Moderator, which one of us is next?
We started with Don Vanderpool.
I went. I just went.
You just went first, so.
Right. Would you repeat the question for me?
Yes, be glad to. I got lost in it myself. How do you feel about the Attorney General's lawsuit regarding health care and the conflict with the 10th Amendment or states' rights?
Thank God for Ken Cuccinelli. I think he had every right in his position as Attorney General to do what he did, and as a citizen of the state of Virginia, I'm glad he did it. The fact is, as a student of history, and you should know, I'm working on a degree to teach history and political science. I'm currently in college to do that. And I've been a student of history all my life, so I'm familiar with this concept of nullification, states' rights, the 10th Amendment. And when the federal government oversteps its bounds, as it certainly has in the case of health care, then the states have a right to sue to nullify that law. And I hope with every fiber of my being that Cuccinelli is successful and we're able to negate this thing and put the federal government back in its place.
18 months before Ken Cuccinelli was elected our Attorney General, I met with him in my house for about an hour and a half. And as a citizen activist, I wanted to know what he believed and where he was coming from. Did I have confidence in him? And I came away from that feeling that he believed as I believed on the issues. I'm proud to say that I led his nomination fight in Hanover County, and I led his campaign fight in Hanover County. Ken Cuccinelli is a game-changing elected official. Now, I don't have an exact quote from Eric Cantor, but I have that same sense with Eric Cantor, that he would support Ken Cuccinelli to the fullest, that he would support those limitations and let the states deal with that. The states are the incubators where you get new ideas, new innovation. The federal government is not equipped and was never set up to do those things.
Mr. Bayne, you're next.
Okay.
The Tea Party likes lower taxes and smaller government. How would you make the government smaller if you were elected?
Well, it's not something I'm going to be able to do by myself. I'm going to have some help. Certainly, I'm hoping that this next election we're going to see a lot of like-minded people like myself serving in Congress. We have to start reining in the federal government. Now, this document, the Constitution, enumerates 17 responsibilities that the federal government has. That's it, 17. Anything beyond that is reserved to the states and the people respectively. We have to have people in Congress with the fortitude and the backbone to say enough. Repeal this, abolish that, get rid of these unconstitutional departments and bureaus, unconstitutional spending. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to happen overnight. But as Confucius said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. We have got to get the ball rolling in that direction. And it's going to have to be people who don't look for don't want to be professional politicians and are more concerned with getting reelected than they are with doing the right thing. And I'm promising you folks right here and now, I am not worried about my reelection. I'm worried about getting us back to the Constitution and limited government that our founding fathers envisioned.
Again, Eric is going public with this. One little thing years ago, probably 15 years ago, I went up to DC to a big victory celebration of some kind, Christian Coalition and et cetera. And I heard Trent Lott speak, and he came out with